Bill Hartzer, and this is the Digital Marketing Podcast with Bill Hartzer. And today I have the pleasure of speaking with David Ogletree from WME Training. It's Web Marketing Experts Training out of the Houston, Texas area. And we're talking about different Google Ads training and pay-per-click training, as well as, I guess with the tip with everything going on right now in the world, we have some different considerations as well with a lot of people working from home now and so forth. So, David, why don't you give me a little bit about your background and a little bit about your company?
Hi, nice to see you again, Bill. I live in Houston, Texas. I'm a native Houstonian. I started doing marketing in 2003, and before that I started in 97 doing IT, working on web servers and that kind of stuff. I didn't really get into the marketing side of it until 2003. I started off doing legal pay-per-click using Overture, the first, the precursor to to Yahoo advertising, and then before Google was really big. I've worked at an agency and I've worked on my own. Last 6 years, I've had WMEtraining.com. I do training and consulting as well. I work with all kinds of services, including shopping and regular search pay-per-click.
Okay, great. So today, let's talk a little bit about Google Ads and, the difference. I guess I've gone through, I'm more of a SEO and content person, search engine optimization and creating sites and creating and writing content. And so I have gone through, 9 and gotten 9 different Google certifications. One of them being the Google Ads certification. And how does that differ? I guess it's probably more generic, the Google Ads certification, than the type of training, that you would get specifically with, if I was going to have, your type of training.
Right. Yeah. Well, one of the big differences is that, they're like you said, they're more generic. A lot of times it's more Google centric. They have an agenda these days where they're trying to make more money for them. They say they're trying to make more money for us, but me and I'm a member of several different groups, and everyone agrees that those ideas are horrible. A lot of this automated bidding, it is good for somebody who basically just sets up their account and never looks at it again, or looks at it every 2-3 months. Yeah, that might be the better way of doing it. But if you're going to actually manage your account, it's better to do it your own way. And there are some instances where that can work. I mean, I've seen people do very well with it. You just have to be careful and test. Like anything, you've got to test. And the other thing is, it's not specific to any business, and so how you use Google Ads is different for every business. Like an online store is going to be different than a lawyer, and different to a B2B and B2C. And and a lot of times there's things that you just don't learn until you have experience. I mean, you may not know these things until you get in there. And sometimes I have to actually kind of show people the difference, when there's your stuff for your business and for your pay-per-click and how those go together. Sometimes I have to teach basic business practices sometimes, because some people don't always understand. Sure. But yeah, it can be more difficult. And there's a lot of things I found out over the years, and a lot of out of the box thinking and things I teach people, and try to make the most money for them.
Sure. So in today's environment, there's especially with COVID-19 and the coronavirus going on, a lot of suddenly everybody has found themselves, a lot of restaurants are closing and going to takeout only. There's a lot of a lot of people are now working from home, where they had maybe an hour commute to a city. And now they're at home. There are certain their locations are different. So how would the typical business, or what kind of changes are you seeing that need to be made now versus even from 3 weeks ago we were seeing, or even a month ago we were seeing you know, certain practices, but now everything has changed. Everybody's kind of quarantined at home or quarantining at home. So what if we're managing an AdWords account, or I keep on saying AdWords, it's Google Ads.
Google Ads, yeah.
Yes. So if we manage a Google Ads account, what do we need to kind of go in there and look for, or what changes do we need to make?
Well, as always, when you're managing your account, you always need to run reports. But and when there's major events like this, you need to do even more reporting. And one of the big things you need to really look at is, if you've got location bid adjustments or device bid adjustments, or even just straight up, you've targeted a certain area and you're not targeting a certain area, you may need to rethink some of your past testing, because anytime you run a test and you decide that, okay, this is better set this way, you always need to retest, especially when there's a major abrupt change like this. You may have to undo some of the stuff you did just for a short period to figure out if something has changed. And so what can happen is that your audience may have moved 30 to 60 miles because normally they're at work during the day, or, that kind of thing. And so you might need to go, you can even just go look at your night. If you run at night times, you can go look at your nighttime traffic and see if you have certain things, different schedule parting set for nighttime and daytime, you may need to look at that. You can always, do bid adjustments and move things around. So I would undo some things, broaden your area a little bit just for testing, just to find out if you need to do that. You may need to move your circle or your area 6 miles or 60 miles or whatever. It just depends.
Sure. The same thing goes probably not just for pay-per-click, but also if you're looking at, your Google My Business, and, a Google My Business account, and go in your dashboard. And if you're targeting you can target certain zip codes, list those as your service area. And, you may actually need to look at that a little bit different, look at your analytics. If you can look at the down to the locations and down to, your analytics as well, there probably would be a good area to look at, and see, as far as locations, and see if you are seeing some differences. And certainly certain industries are probably more affected than others. Maybe it could be some B2B, if you're, in certain areas, where typically you'd be, targeting a downtown location, versus, restaurants in particular. They probably most likely, I would assume that, they're just going to still target the same area, because the restaurant really has not changed their location. Maybe their customers, you may change some of the ads, though, I can imagine, as well, offering takeout where you didn't, before you didn't offer takeout, those types of things. And then also same thing with keywords, as far as, if we're talking to restaurants, then, delivery.
Right.
And then there's certainly, and same thing with, grocery delivery or any kind of other delivery services.
Right. And a lot of, as far as e-commerce, right now, the companies who are benefiting or transitioning a little better are the companies who already had an online presence and already had an e-commerce store. So,
Sure.
if you don't have an e-commerce store, you may need to rush and get one. Shopify can get those things up really fast, and start directing your people to that. If you already have a Facebook page, email list, send this out. Come in. And also, I've even seen people there was a local store in Houston, and there's a lot of buy, sell, and trade Facebook groups for your area. And this lady had set up a Facebook Live, and she was just going through her store and showing stuff, and getting people to come in. There's if you have a brick and mortar store and you weren't online, you may need to now, because that's maybe your only way of saving your business is to do that.
Yes, definitely. And because there are, I know even in Texas, there are some restrictions now, as far as, where even as much as yesterday and the day before, a local restaurant I've been working with, they had where normally they were previously they'd get, they'd share a post and maybe they get, they post on Facebook and they might get a certain, 10 or 15 shares. But now, a post where they're posting their menu saying, they're allowing, 10 people in the store dining area at the one time. That was a restriction, yesterday, but now the dining area is closed and they're doing food delivery. Now I'm seeing hundreds of shares. And so everybody really is, being forced, to do things online. Now, I do believe one of my predictions, if I can, as an outcome of this, is that we actually will probably see in the long run a lot more internet usage overall, because what's going to happen is typically somebody who, I would say they occasionally, maybe in the evenings, or they occasionally use Facebook, or they occasionally, search for things on the web. They don't use the internet that much. What has happened, because maybe they're driving and they're working during the day and they don't have time. Now they're at home. Now, they're still working, but they have through internet access, and they're doing more searches. And so those people who typically have not done it before, they're in these weeks, they're going, or certainly these days, next 2 weeks or so, they're going to be doing it a lot more, and they will develop a habit of searching and using the internet and ordering things online, and ordering takeout, and doing deliveries and so forth. They'll get used to that habit, and where normally they would not, now they're forced to do that. And so what's going to happen is there'll be some people who will go back to their old ways, but I assume that this is the time where a lot of people are going to be forced to use, are kind of forced to use the internet more and more. It'll become a habit, and in the weeks and months and years to come, there will be a whole shift. We will see a lot more people searching and using mobile phones a lot more over the long run.
Right.
I think that's my kind of my prediction over the long run, and the fallout of this is that sure. And so certainly there are resources out there for companies that are local businesses that need to suddenly get their takeout menu on their website, or maybe they don't have a website. You can get one up and running in half a day. So those may be the only way that you can really stay in business, is connect that way.
Right. And also another thing, you really need to focus on load time. And we've been saying that for years now for SEO,
Sure.
But for pay-per-click, and especially right now, because our internet infrastructure is going to be taxed. And so, even me, I have 1 gig fiber at my house, but I still get slow connections right now because everybody's on the internet. And also another thing, even if you might have low traffic, I would still invest in using a content delivery network, using a CDN. So, if your website gets blocked by one route on the internet, it'll be picked up by another route because you have a CDN, as opposed to having one point of failure. That will help a lot.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, your web host can probably help you with having that. There's also options like Cloudflare.com, Cloudflare, and MaxCDN, BitMitigate by Epic is a good option as well. There's the different, and then web hosts, WP Engine certainly has some options as well, where they'll essentially they'll also have your images on one server, and those will load in the same time. At the same time. The other option, is also to turn on AMP, which is accelerated mobile pages, and typically those have been. I typically have in the past year or so kind of. I was originally, when AMP came out, I was telling people to do it because it's much faster and so forth. But I've seen some issues where, where tracking and some kind of, typically I've wanted people to come to your website rather than just having go to a version that is, on Google servers. And so, in this case, if you have a local business that typically most will have a shared hosting. You're paying $10 to $20 a month or so for your hosting account. And if it's a case where your website's not changing a lot, and that you have your menu or your business information on there, it may be actually good also to implement that Google AMP on your website. Essentially, when somebody searches, they never really come to your domain name. They actually stay on Google servers. They see your website, they see the mobile version, but it's very fast. And so that's that again, in these weeks and times where everybody's trying to get on GoToMeeting and everybody's trying to get on the remote and doing video and video conferencing, and everybody's working from home. Sure, we're going to see slower speeds, and hopefully that'll the back end providers and ISPs will will help deliver more bandwidth. But now's a time where you may need to do a lot of that. And certainly there are in the industry, in the search industry and SEO and PPC and the digital marketing industry, there are people who can help speed up your site and make sure, set you up on Cloudflare and set you up on, and look at, do account reviews, right? You mentioned to me, we were talking a while back and that you're doing, certainly account reviews. Right. So if somebody has, as I understand, if somebody has, wants you to come in just for a couple hours and look at their account and make sure that, they have everything set based on locations properly or whatever. Right. Tell me a little bit about, those little account reviews that you do.
Yeah, normally I do the training. I sell 8 hours for $600. But right now during this time, and I know a lot of small companies need some help, I'm offering $75 for just 1 hour, and we'll use Zoom or Skype or something, and we'll look at your account, and I'll just quickly look through that and see if there's anything glaring wrong with it. It won't be a full training, but we'll just kind of make sure that you're ready for this time and what's going on.
Sounds great. We're just about out of time, so let me tell me a little bit how to get in touch with you, and for especially one of those reviews, or might be now's probably a good time to maybe think about some training, because like I said, it's if you commute an hour each way or an hour a day, you've got now an hour or two extra per day that you could be spending. And put that hour into getting some AdWords training. I keep on calling it AdWords. It's Google
Ads. Yeah.
Yes, definitely. So how do we get in touch with you?
Well, my website is WMEtraining.com, Web Marketing Experts. And also I'm at Ogletree, which is OGLETREE, at Twitter. And on Facebook, I'm David Ogletree. I'm the blonde guy. I'm easy to find. And LinkedIn as well. I'm David Ogletree on LinkedIn. So I should be pretty easy to find. I've been out there for a while and show up for my name.
All right. Sounds great. Thanks again. This has been the Digital Marketing with Bill Hartzer podcast for March 19th, 2020. And thanks again, David. And we will see you online. Thanks.
Thanks.